Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is going to be my very first video, and what better way to kick things off than with a topic everyone knows about, Pokemon. But not just any Pokemon, I'm going to be talking about my favorite Pokemon game, Pokemon Sun and Moon. I've always been a huge fan of the series, but these games really stand out to me. So stay tuned while I cover the Alola region, Alola forms, unique island trials, and Z moves. So let's take a deep dive into Pokemon Sun and Moon. Pokemon Sun and Moon were released on November 18, 2016. At this point, the franchise has already cemented its place in gaming history with all of its previous games. But Game Freak wanted to bring something fresh to the table while honoring what fans loved about the older games. The most notable aspect of Sun and Moon is the Alola region, which is heavily inspired by Hawaii. Game Freak didn't just create another region, they crafted a world that feels vibrant, alive, and deeply connected to nature. This is evident in how Alola focuses on the bond between people, Pokemon, and the environment. The tropical setting also allowed the designers to rethink the traditional Pokemon formula by introducing the idea of regional variants, which is probably one of the best changes Pokemon has ever added. The design choice to base Alola on real-world locations reflect a shift in the series' focus. They want to immerse players in an environment that feels different from any other region before it. Alola is still all about islands, warmth, and the idea of a close-knit community. That vibe is present in almost every aspect of the game, from the characters to its architecture to the laid-back music of the game. Pokemon Sun and Moon feel like a vacation, but they also had a deeper, more emotional theme. From a development standpoint, Sun and Moon marked a big turning point for the series. The decision to move away from traditional gym challenges was a bold move. Instead of battling gym leaders, players go on an island challenge, where they complete many tasks that feel more natural to the progression of the story, unlike gym battles. But it's not just the island trials or the gyms that changed. They also removed HMs, which is also one of the most significant changes introduced in Sun and Moon, along with the regional variant. For the first time in the series, players weren't forced to teach their Pokemon specific moves just to navigate the world. Instead, the Pokeride system allowed players to call upon specific Pokemon to help with tasks like flying, swimming, or breaking rocks. This was a breath of fresh air to fans who've only been frustrated with HMs for the longest, or having an HM slave to carry around your party instead of having a 6-member that could be incredibly strong. Another big innovation was the regional gimmicks, which were the Z moves at this time. New layer of strategy in the Pokemon battles. Z moves allow Pokemon to unleash a powerful attack once per battle, provided the Pokemon was holding the Z crystal and they had the move to do so. These moves added a cinematic flair to the battles and gave players a way to turn the tides in a fight. The introduction of Z moves also played to the theme of bonding with your Pokemon. It was also a way of trainers and Pokemons to sync up, symbolizing their unity and strength together. When it comes to Pokemon games, the storyline has mostly been secondary to the core gameplay, but Sun and Moon broke that mold. The plot of these games are widely regarded as some of the best in the series, alongside Black and White and Black and White 2, as fan favorites. So, you're wondering what made it so compelling? One of the things that made it so compelling is Lily's story. One of the standouts of Sun and Moon is Lily. Lily isn't just another side character, she's the emotional core of the entire game. At the start, she's timid, afraid to take action, and feels overshadowed by the looming presence of her mother, Lusamine, who also serves as the main antagonist of the game. Her development over the course of the game is something rarely seen in Pokemon titles, where character growth isn't really a major focus, and it mostly focuses on your Pokemon and their journey together. Lily starts off as someone who's terrified of Pokemon battles. She runs away with Cosmog, later to be revealed as a powerful Lunala or Silgaleo depending on your game. In an attempt to protect it from her mother, throughout her journey as a trainer, you witness Lily slowly build up her courage. By the time you reach the climax of the story though, Lily is no longer a scared girl from the beginning. She's determined, independent, and ready to stand up against her own mother to protect the ones she loves. What makes the story even more powerful is that it's intertwined with the game's main theme, family. Lily's relationship with Lusamine and her eventual decision to part ways with her is both a heartbreaking and inspiring message. It's not just about stopping the bad guy, It's about helping someone find their inner strength and to take control of their life. Now let's talk about the major team in the game. Every Pokemon has a villainous team, mainly wanting to take over the world or destroy it, but Team Skull isn't fitting the norm. They aren't trying to control legendary Pokemon, take over the world, or reshape reality. Instead, they're portrayed as a group of misfits, essentially the outcasts of society, who feel discontinued from the mainstream. They bring a comedic and also lighthearted energy to the game, but beneath their humor is a much more relatable theme of rejection and isolation. Team Skull's leader, Guzma, is one of the most fascinating characters in the game. He's not just a one-dimensional villain. Guzma represents failure, his frustration, and insecurities, made him a much more human antagonist compared to the previous villains. But beyond that, Team Skull's involvement with Lusamine and the Aether Foundation adds complexity to the story. On the surface, Team Skull's a bunch of hooligans, but it becomes clear as the story goes along that they're being manipulated by something much larger. This dynamic of small-time criminals caught up in a grander scheme is something that the series hasn't explored much before Sun and Moon. Now let's talk about the people Team Skull is being manipulated by, the Aether Foundation. Now, Lusamine was the main villain of Sun and Moon. On the surface, the Aether Foundation appears to be a benevolent organization dedicated to protecting Pokemon. However, as you progress, you realize that the president, Lusamine, is obsessed with finding and controlling Ultra Beasts, otherworldly creatures that play a significant role on the plot.Lusamine's obsession with perfection and her controlling nature makes her one of the most disturbing villains in Pokemon history. She's not after power for the sake of power, she's driven by a warped sense of love and control. Her desire to protect her children and her Ultra Beast stems from her unhealthy fixation of perfection, which eventually leads her to lose sight of her reality. In the climax of the story, Lusamine merges with the Ultra Beast, Nihilego, and this is a visually striking and emotional intense moment. It's not just a typical final boss, it's a representation of Lusamine's complete descendance into madness, and it's Lily who confronts her, making the cultivation of both her character arcs. Sun and Moon took the series in a whole new direction with the introduction of Ultra Beast, wormholes, and other shenanigans. They added a whole new layer of sci-fi to the game, which was a bold and refreshing choice of the series. The Ultra Beasts themselves are more than just powerful creatures to catch, as they were introduced in a big game besides Nihilego. They symbolize the unknown, representing the dangers and mysteries of exploring new worlds. This ties into the overreaching theme of discovery and growth, both from the player and the characters like Lily and Gladion, of existentialism and the fear of the unknown. But Sun and Moon do this effectively throughout the entire story of the Ultra Beast. Now let's talk about what Sun and Moon did right. One of the biggest strengths of Sun and Moon is the change. They shake up the traditional Pokemon formula. The most notable change was the removal of gems and the addition of island challenges. These trials didn't always involve straight up battles. Sometimes you'd be solving puzzles, searching for items, or facing off against a totem Pokemon. A boss-like battle with a powerful wild Pokemon, who could also summon other Pokemon if you didn't kill it fast enough. This variation of Pokemon made it less formulaic and much more immersive, pulling players into the culture of Alola. It was also a refreshing change of pace that kept veteran players engaged and excited to see what each new trial had in store. The Alola region felt truly unique in terms of its atmosphere and environment. Inspired by Hawaii, the tropical setting was vibrant and alive, offering a level of immersion that few Pokemon games have achieved previously. From the lush jungles to the serene beaches and the rich local culture, everything about Alola felt connected to nature and the island's history. Alola introduced regional variants of classic Pokemon, another hit with fans. These Alolan forms gave life to older Pokemon, reimagining them to fit the tropical setting. Alola introduced regional variants of classic Pokemon, another hit with fans. These Alolan forms gave new life to older Pokemon, reimagining them to fit the tropical setting. Pokemon like Executor, Vulpix took on new forms, abilities, and typings, which not only made the region feel distinct, but it also added a strategic layer for veteran Pokemon players. Another thing Pokemon Sun and Moon did good was removing HMs. Like I said earlier, HMs have been a staple of the Pokemon game, and you would have to teach one of your Pokemon these moves to even move on with the game. Now you don't have to waste any slots getting around the map. Instead, you can now just summon Pokemon to do the other jobs for you instead of using your own. This change streamlined the gameplay and allowed players to focus on building their ideal teams without worrying about fitting an HM move onto their strategy. It was a huge quality of life and improvements that made the game much more enjoyable. And I know you guys are going to get mad at me, but I think Z-moves were a good addition to the game. Z-moves were another major innovation in Sun and Moon. These 1 use per battle super moves were added as a layer of strategy, requiring players to think carefully about when and how to use them in battle. It wasn't just about brute force. Using Z-moves at the right time could turn the tide of an entire battle. The animation and excitement about Z-moves gave each battle a cinematic flair that made even simple fights feel very epic. The idea of syncing with your Pokemon to unleash a Z-move also reinforced the theme of unity and bond through trainers at Alola. Ultimately, Sun and Moon will be remembered for their ambition and their willingness to change. the status quo. For some fans, they were a refreshing change, while other fans felt like it didn't go far enough. But one thing is certain, they left an undeniable mark on the Pokemon franchise. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this breakdown of Sun and Moon, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Sun and Moon. Did they live up to your expectations, or were there parts in the game that you just didn't like at all?